Hello everyone, this is Chris from Undefined Interactive, and in this video we're going to focus a little bit on cleaning up our store, mainly the security module area. We're going to create a couple new functions that we can use. One, find by ID. We'll have another one that's find all, somewhere around here. We'll also create a new class that we're going to use, or we're going to implement a Fluent interface on, so that we can not have all these checks for type is undefined and throw. To facilitate that, we're going to create getters for all of the other things. We have one getters for categories and securities, but we'll get getters for both the territories and a singular territory, so that we can provide our validation in all of those. We'll then update our securities view to use those getters, and at the end we'll see that our validator is working correctly if we attempt to find, in this case, a market with an ID of 100. It's undefined, so we get this error thrown. Those are the things that we'll focus on in this video. Alright, so first off I want to say thank you for watching the video and thank you for subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, I hope that you'll consider subscribing to the channel. And with that said, we can go ahead and get started here. So we'll first start off with creating a couple of functions that help us within the modules or within our stores. So we can see that, in the getter we're doing this find by ID. Here real soon we're going to need to find all, so for markets and segments and such, that you don't need to populate any other navigation properties. You'll just you want to get all of them. So let's create a new file in our store here. So new file, we're going to call that functions.ts. Alright, so in this functions, what we're going to want is export a function, and we're going to want find all. One of them, and we'll have an export function find all by ID. So before we do that though, what we'll do is have an interface up here. We'll call it iStateItem, so we know that all of the items within our states, they all have an ID, which is a number. And then we also know that an iState, which will be of type, or that contains t's, extends all of those t's, extend that iStateItem, and the state itself is going to have an index on it, which is a number, and the property of items, which is a t array. So when we want to find all, what we'll do is say that this is t extends iStateItem. So we'll pass in the state, and that state is the iState of t, capital T. So then all we then have to do is return state.items. Similar thing down here, find by ID. We have our extends iStateItem. We'll pass in that state, iState of t. We'll also pass in an ID, which is a number. So then here we just return state.items.find x.id equals ID. We'll save that, and before we go back to the module itself, what we'll do is go into the store-constants. Right now we have getters for both the plural securities and singular security, as well as categories and category. What I want is we're going to create some getters for all the others. So we have the plurals, let's align everything. So we have the plurals for markets and a singular market, segment, territories, and so on. Let's go ahead and save those. Next up, a little change, security types. So in here, one of the things that I'm doing is, or that we've done, is say that to get a security, and we've just typed it out, as a function that takes in an ID and returns a security model. we're going to use those within views, so it'd be good to have them typed instead of just having to type this over and over again. So what we'll do is first off import those constants that we just created, and then I'm going to export a type. What we'll do, come down here. Type is the exact same as what we had previously, plus extras for all the others. So for a category, a getter category is a function that takes in an ID and returns you a category model. So that means that we can redo all of our getters down here. Of course, the ones that are returning arrays don't change, but to make my life easier, I can just copy and paste them all in. So for a security, it just returns a getter security type, which is just basically an alias for that function that takes an ID and returns a security model. So we'll save that, close that one, and now we can go back to our security module. First thing that we're going to do though is go up here and import our constants, the getters constants that we just added. We're going to want our functions. So store functions, maybe I should call them store constants. Looks like I misspelled something. Find all by ID. Oh, that's an interesting one. So find by ID. And now we can change our getters and such. So we'll come down here for, first off, would be the security. So now security just becomes, we'll want that state. But now we don't have to type all this mess. We just find by ID, look for that state, and get that ID. One other thing that we're going to do is that we are going to deal with these, checking the thing, see if things are undefined differently. So what we'll do is, and in addition, we, like I said, we're using a getter for the category, but we're also going to come up with new getters for each of the other ones. So now this will be just a getter of type security market. We're going to say that we know that the security is not undefined, so we'll put our bangs there. Come down and do the same thing. So category, we can change that to our find by ID now. We get rid of all of these. Get rid of this, and get rid of this, and get rid of this. So now we're going to say that we know the category is not undefined, segment, territory, and type. And what we'll do is just update the security, territory, and type to use our find by IDs. Except for right now, we weren't using the getters before for this one. So we'll say I security getters. So now we have our getters being passed into it. We need to do basically same things for markets and all the rest. So we'll type in one here to see it for sure. So market, we're doing a singular market. We'll pass in the state, which is the I store state. We want the singular market, so we need to return a function that takes in an ID. So const market is equal to find by ID, and which one are we looking for? The state, and we need the markets now, and we pass in the ID. So now we'll get a market, and we return that market. Put in our punctuation. Let's do a singular get all of the markets. Again, will be passed in a state. I store state. And these are the easier ones. Now all we have to do is return and find all. And the state, should have copied that up there. Markets. So find all the markets. Right? So those are easy. So we have the markets done. Now we need the segments. So let me just copy this one in. So again, a singular segment, return a function, takes an ID, look in the segments for that ID using the find by ID function. We'll have the find all for segments. And then to make this all easier, obviously you can see the pattern. We then have territories, find all territory gives us the single function, and type and types. So we're good there. So while we're changing things, let's go ahead into our securities view. And right now, like I said, we're using the getters for the securities and the categories. We're using the state for the market, so we get the market state. Then we have this computed property markets, so that we just return market state.items to get the items to display within our view. So let's change that. And changing it means let's take the constants that we defined for the getters. And we need the types that we don't have. So we need our security market model. And we need the types for the segment, the territory, and type. So we're good there, I think. So that just boils down to basically redoing our getters. Let me just copy them in. So now our getters, we already had the categories, securities were done. So now for markets, it's just markets, security market array. So these are all arrays now, which means we can get rid of our computer properties. And now just makes a lot cleaner. All right, so we made a few changes there, but the main thing that I wanted, or next main thing that we need to focus on is again dealing with the fact that yes, this security could actually be undefined. And the way that we're going to do that is by adding a new file in here, new file. I called it store action validator, just because I couldn't come up with a better name for it. And what we'll do is we're going to export a class store action validator. So the idea is going to be using a sort of Fluent interface just to look at this. So we have something to talk about. What we'll do is have a class, the class we just created, so we'll new one up. And then from there, we'll use this interface to be able to say, okay, I want to start. You'll see why we need to start. And then we'll be able to say, while performing an action, in this case getting, we'll throw if the thing that we're looking for, in this case a security, is undefined, and we'll pass in a message for it. All right? So first up, what we'll do is say that, scroll my screen back. Let's make our actions. So export enum store actions. Why are there two spaces? Who knows? So we'll have a none. And it's basically, I have just the CRUD, except I throw in a getting here. Reading, updating, deleting. We don't need extra spaces. So now we have some actions, right? What we will do, sort of, let's create the interfaces that will follow this pattern here, okay? So I need an interface. We'll just call it interface I store action validator A. So to begin, it'll have a begin. It doesn't takes no arguments into it, and it will return a B, which we have to define. So interface I store action B. So now we've begun, where we need the while. So while is an action, or is a function or method that takes in an action, which is the store actions, and it puts out I store action C. Interface store action C. So now we need the throw if. So throw if. And it's going to take in something. So we need to deal with that. It's going to give us a D. And then we need interface I store action D. and that needs the is undefined, which takes in our message. And just in case we want to go back and do it for another property, which we probably won't, but we'll just say that this returns a store action B. We need to deal with the if, or the throw if here, right? So it takes in an item. So let's do a type here. So type, item type, I guess capital, item type, and that's either object or undefined, right? So now this will take in item, which is item type. While I'm at it, we're going to need another one in a little minute or two here. So we'll need an interface, and cleverly called it item. It'll have a property on it of string and error string and a message, which is also a string. We'll see those here in a second. But now we can come down to our actual class here and say that it implements these things. So implements I store A, I store B, I store C, and I store D. Which of course it currently does not, but we'll fix that. So let's do the begin one. Takes in nothing. We do need to tell it what it returns here, so it's going to return the I store B, right? And we'll just say return this. So it's having a hissy fit because we haven't provided the rest of them. So I guess from begin we go to while, so public while, and while is going to take in the action, store actions, it returns the C, return this. Then we need the, oops, public, and where are we at? Throw if. Throw if. Throw if takes in the item, which is the, what do I call it? Item type. It's going to I store, I think we're on D now. And return this. And we need the last one is undefined. So public is undefined, takes in a message, which is a string. It's going to give us like a B, and then we just return this. So now all of our errors are taken care of. So next up, we need to remember things. So we end up with is undefined is the ending part. So we need to remember the things that came before it. So what we'll have is a private action, and we'll say that it is the store action.none. We also want private item, which is going to be an item type or null, since I don't know what it is. Should, I guess, come up with a option type, and that's okay. So for these, it's fairly simple. We just come down and say that the action is equal to the action passed in, and the item, that item is equal to item. The real magic happens in is undefined. First off, we'll say that if this dot item, not this dot item, type of it, actually no, this dot item, if that's equal to null, we have a problem. We will just say throw new error, and you must specify the item. Great. Maybe we'll come up with something better at some point. So then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a const item, which is a type of item. The reason I'm doing that is now we know what the error is going to be. So the error in this case is going to be that the thing was undefined, and our message is being passed in to us. So we'll put the message there. Now, what do we do? So what do we do? Well, we need throw if is telling us what we need to do. And you can imagine that we'd have something else like console error if, or something else if. So we need to specify from throw if what it should be. And what we'll do is create a sort of what I'm going to call private, and I called it a failure response. Failure response is going to take in an item, which is the item, and it's going to be void. And we're going to have a default version of it, which just returns. So it doesn't do anything here. So that's a failure response. So what we'll do, we want to be able to set in throw if, we want to say that this failure response equals something. That's something. We could use this lambda function, but we can, instead of having them all over the place, we know that we want to throw item, item. So this is just going to throw new error. And so now that we know this is this dot throw. What the error is, though, is going to be, we'll just put a message in it for now. So private failure message takes in item, item, and what do we do? What I said was const. The action is going to be store actions of this dot action. Oops, I've completely messed that up. I wonder if I'm not getting any help. So that gives us our action. So then we'll return a message. And that message is going to be failed. Make it look, interesting. Put some different stuff in here. Failed the action. And now we need our item.message. The result of the operation was, make it cooler, put some angles in there. We'll say it was item.error. So there's our message. So failure response would be this dot failure message, pass in the item. Now we're good. Okay, I think we're all set there. Now we can come up to our undefined here. So we'll say if this dot, we need a type of now. Type of this dot item, if that's equal to undefined, then what we want to do is this dot failure response passing in the item. So we can save that. So I think we've gotten everything there. We can delete that. That was just for show. Now if we go back into our security module, like I said, we wanted to check to make sure that security was not undefined. Oops, I think I jumped back to the module prematurely. What I want is to create another function here. Export function undefined message. That will take in the entity name, an ID, and a state index, which is a number. In here, let me just save myself some typing and use some time. So I thought, when I was testing this around, that it's helpful to sometimes get the state index. So if the ID is greater than that, we'll get a different message. We just have a function that will take in some parameters and give us back a string. So we want the import the undefined message, but we also have to import our store action validator. We'll put it up at the top just because. Okay, so we have that. What we'll do is maybe do it right here. So const store action validator equal to new store action validator. Now it's ready for use. So we have our store action validator dot begin. And now since we have those interfaces, we know that we now have to do while. we need to pass in the action of getting, and we want to throw if security is not undefined, and then we use the undefined message to tell it that we were looking for a security with an ID of ID, and we were looking in the state securities dot index. All right, so now we have seen how to use it. Let me just save us a little bit of time here and come down. So we need the same deal when it comes to category, right? So we look, we're getting, if the category is undefined, give it this message. So we need that same thing for markets. We need it for segments. And the last two, first up, territory. And last one, the type. All right, so we'll use those separately here, but just to see that everything is working, what I do have the application open, and it is, let's do this. So it's working fine, no errors going on. We have all of our categories, markets, segments, so it's all working. Let's go back to our securities view just to test this out. What we want is a getter for the singular market. While we're in a importing mood, we get the for market getter there. We'll come down here because I'll delete this here in a second. Say getter, which one? Singular market, private getter market, and that sets for us, and it's of type getter market. So let's do private mounted console log this dot getter market, and which one do we look for? Let's look for number one. We'll save that, and we'll go back here and see, that we have an object here. So in fact is a market. So that's working. So the getter part's working, and let's try for 100. There's only a couple of them in there. So if we go back, we're getting our error now. The error that we're sending in is failed getting market with ID 100. The ID is greater than or equal to the state index of 4. The result of the operation was undefined. All right. So at least for me, I think it's a lot cleaner in our module now. We're using our functions to find by ID. We have functions for find all. And we have this new store validator, action validator class that we have this create a Fluent interface on to make it easier to know which methods that we need to call when or next to perform the function that we want. Of course, it should be easy to update the validator to handle other things like is null or both is null and is undefined. We may run into doing that at some point in time, but I think that will take care of it for this video. I think in the next video we're going to, of course, do more work on the actual details page, maybe start showing some details and such, but we'll see all of that in the next video, and until then I will talk to you later. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video. I know that your time is valuable. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel and click the thumbs up button, as well as share the video with your friends. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below. And once again, thank you, and I will talk to you in the next video.